We often hear stories of wealth, fame, and success, but sometimes the greatest fortunes are lost, not in bad investments or business failures, but in the courtroom. Today's story is about a man who had everything: millions in the bank, luxury homes, expensive cars, and the reputation of a self-made millionaire. Yet, when his marriage ended, the legal battle that followed drained his fortune and left him with nothing but regret. Welcome to this gripping tale of the Alimony case that bankrupted a millionaire. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel, where we bring you incredible true stories, lessons from real lives, and powerful insights you won't want to miss. Our story begins with Daniel, a successful entrepreneur who rose from humble beginnings. In his early 30s, he had built a thriving business empire that spanned real estate, tech investments, and luxury imports. Daniel was admired in his community, celebrated in magazines, and often photographed at glamorous parties. But behind the glittering surface, there was a marriage falling apart. His wife, Claire, had supported him in the early days, standing by his side when his business was just an idea, scribbled on a napkin. As Daniel's fortune grew, so did the distance between them. Claire began to feel invisible, left behind in the whirlwind of Daniel's success. Rumors of Daniel's late-night meetings, trips without explanations, and growing list of admirers didn't help. Their relationship became strained. Conversations turned into arguments, and what was once love turned into bitterness. Finally, Claire filed for divorce, shocking not only Daniel, but the entire circle of people who knew them. But this wasn't going to be a quiet separation. Claire demanded alimony, and not just a modest sum. She claimed she had sacrificed her own dreams and career to help Daniel achieve his. She wanted compensation for the years she had dedicated to his rise. The case quickly became the talk of the town. Newspapers splashed headlines about the millionaire divorce, and the media portrayed Claire as the wronged wife demanding justice. Daniel, on the other hand, saw this as an attack, not just on his wealth, but on his pride. He fought back aggressively, hiring top lawyers and vowing not to give in. But what he didn't realize was that the courtroom was unlike the boardroom. Deals weren't negotiated in his favor. Instead, every detail of his personal life, every hidden expense, and every past mistake was laid bare for judgment. As the hearings dragged on, legal fees skyrocketed. Daniel's empire, once secure, started to wobble under the weight of mounting bills. Yet he refused to back down, convinced that giving in would mean admitting defeat. The once confident millionaire now found himself cornered, his wealth slowly slipping through his fingers, not from a bad business decision, but from a marriage that had turned into war. And this was only the beginning. The worst was yet to come, as the court prepared to deliver its shocking ruling, a decision that would change Daniel's life forever. The day of the court ruling finally arrived, and the tension in the air was heavy. Daniel sat stiffly beside his team of lawyers, while Claire appeared calm, her attorneys confident that justice would favor her. The courtroom was packed with reporters, curious spectators, and even old business rivals of Daniel who had come to watch the mighty fall. The judge began reading the verdict. Claire was awarded not only a substantial share of Daniel's wealth, but also lifetime alimony payments that exceeded what most people could dream of earning in their entire lives. The figure stunned the room. Daniel's jaw tightened as the reality sank in. He was now legally obligated to pay millions over time, a sum so massive it threatened to consume everything he had worked for. At first, Daniel tried to put on a brave face. "I can handle this," he told himself. But as the months passed, the truth became undeniable. His bank accounts dwindled faster than they were replenished. His once booming business began to suffer, partly because he was distracted and partly because investors lost confidence in him after the scandal became public. Partners pulled out, projects stalled, and employees began to worry about their jobs. The media made things worse. Tabloids ran headlines like "Millionaire brought to his knees by Alimony" and "The costly price of divorce." Overnight, Daniel's image shifted from a symbol of success to a cautionary tale. He couldn't escape the whispers at high-profile gatherings, nor the pitying looks from acquaintances who once envied his life. The same people who once cheered his victories now watched eagerly as he unraveled. Meanwhile, Claire's life transformed. She moved into a lavish new home, traveled the world, and indulged in luxuries Daniel once believed only he could provide. She became a public figure in her own right, admired by some for standing up for herself, and criticized by others who accused her of greed. Either way, she had secured her future, while Daniel's began slipping through his hands. But what hurt Daniel more than the financial loss was the emotional toll. He replayed his decisions again and again, wondering if things could have been different. Could he have saved his marriage if he had paid more attention? Could he have negotiated rather than fought? Or was this downfall inevitable, fueled by pride and ego on both sides? As the legal payments continued to bleed his fortune, Daniel was forced to make painful decisions. He sold one of his mansions, then another. His luxury cars disappeared one by one. The empire he had once bragged about started to crumble before his eyes. Each sale, each asset lost, was like tearing away a piece of his identity. But Daniel's fall was far from over. What awaited him next would not only shake his financial foundation, but also test his very will to survive. Would he fight to rebuild, or would he allow the weight of the alimony to bury him completely? With every passing month, Daniel's world shrank smaller and smaller. The millionaire who once commanded boardrooms and closed multi-million-dollar deals now spent his days scrambling just to meet the next alimony deadline. The payments were relentless. Like a slow bleed, he could never stop. His lawyers suggested appeals, but each attempt only dragged him deeper into debt with mounting legal fees. The stress began to show. Daniel's health suffered. Sleepless nights and constant anxiety left him looking older than his years. Friends who once filled his home with laughter drifted away. Some didn't want to be associated with his downfall, while others simply didn't know what to say to a man who had lost everything. Isolation became his new reality. His businesses, once his pride and joy, collapsed under the weight of scandal and neglect. One by one, branches shut down, projects were cancelled, and trusted employees resigned to save their own futures. The man who had once been a symbol of prosperity now watched his empire crumble like sand slipping through his fingers. Claire, however, seemed untouchable. She continued to thrive on the fortune she now controlled, her lifestyle making headlines in glossy magazines. While Daniel tightened his belt, Claire posed at luxury resorts, shopping sprees, and charity galas, her smile unshaken by the storm she had left behind. For Daniel, each headline was a dagger, a public reminder of his humiliation. At his lowest, Daniel was forced to sell his final mansion, the very home where he had once dreamed of building a family and a legacy. Packing boxes in empty hallways, he thought back to the man he used to be, confident, respected, untouchable. Now he was a shadow of that man, stripped of power, wealth, and pride. But here's the part no one saw. Beneath the wreckage of his old life, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. Clarity. For the first time, there was nothing left to protect, nothing left to prove. He realized that all the money, all the status, had only blinded him to what truly mattered. Perhaps this fall, as devastating as it was, could also be the chance for him to rebuild, not the empire, but himself. Daniel stood at a crossroads. One path was bitterness and despair, a lifetime spent blaming others for his collapse. The other was harder, lonelier, but perhaps more rewarding, to accept the loss, learn from it, and rise again, not as the man he once was, but as someone wiser, freer, and unchained from pride. The world believed Daniel was finished. His rivals mocked him, and the media declared his story over. But what no one knew was that Daniel still had one fight left in him. The question was, would he use his pain to fuel a comeback, or let the weight of the alimony finally bury him for good? Years had passed since the courtroom first stripped Daniel of everything he thought defined him. The world had long forgotten his name, his businesses had new owners, and Claire remained a fixture in social circles. But Daniel, he had quietly disappeared into obscurity, living far from the glittering towers where his empire once stood. In a small town where no one cared about millionaires or scandals, Daniel began to rebuild, not wealth, but himself. He worked odd jobs, spoke little of his past, and slowly learned the value of simplicity. The expensive cars, the lavish mansions, the extravagant parties, all of it had been a cage disguised as luxury. Now he found a strange peace in waking up without headlines, without lawsuits, without the crushing weight of reputation. For years, he had believed money was power. But the Alimony case showed him money could also be a prison. Freedom wasn't in wealth. It was in knowing who you are without it. And that realization became Daniel's redemption. He began mentoring young entrepreneurs, not about how to get rich, but about how to stay grounded when success arrives. He spoke of mistakes, of pride, of how easily everything can vanish when you believe you're invincible. His story became a warning, but also a lesson in resilience. Meanwhile, Claire's world began to shift. The same lifestyle she once flaunted started to drain her. With age, the glitter lost its shine, and the friends who once adored her drifted away. Money brought her comfort, but not companionship, not peace, not love. The magazines no longer called, and the spotlight slowly faded. She had won the battle for fortune, but had she truly won in life? Daniel, on the other hand, found something he never expected: contentment. He was no longer the millionaire who ruled boardrooms, nor the broken man who cried over losses. He was simply Daniel, a man who had faced ruin and discovered that survival was not just about keeping money, but about keeping one's soul intact. As his story spread, people who heard it often asked him, "Do you regret it? Do you regret loving her, building an empire, and losing it all?" Daniel would smile and answer softly, "I don't regret the fall. Without it, I would never have learned how to rise again." And that's the message hidden inside this scandal of wealth and loss. Life will strip away everything you cling to, but in that emptiness lies the chance to find what truly matters. So as we close Daniel's story, remember, money can vanish, status can collapse, but the strength of your spirit is something no court, no alimony, no betrayal can ever bankrupt. If you found meaning in this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for daily videos filled with powerful life lessons. And remember, every downfall carries the seed of a new beginning. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to